Hi, my name is Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and in this video I'm going to look at aspects of selling your prints. Now, I've produced quite a lot of videos looking at the marketing side of photography, both marketing in photography and prints, but I do get regularly asked recurring questions about selling pictures that you've printed from printers like this. Now, this is Canon Pro 200, but it also covers smaller printers and bigger printers as well. But I'm regularly asked, can I sell my prints? I want to sell my prints, and people are looking for basic ideas about it. Now, as I say, I've got lots more detail. There are other videos. Look in the business section, the playlist for that, and you'll find there's quite a lot of them looking at all kinds of aspects of print sales. But the basics of it, and this doesn't really matter what printer you're using, although that does from your cost point of view. It's people are saying, I can now make greetings cards really easily. You can buy a pre-creased card, which this is. This has even got some printing on here. That's a wheat field in Oregon. I took a photograph just whilst I was driving across one of the flatter, emptier bits of Oregon. And, you know, it makes a nice card, one that I might send out a few to people. Now, that's sending them out to family, friends, producing Christmas cards, a few odds and ends like that. It's not a business. I don't do this as a business, not greetings cards. I test lots of stuff for this because I know lots of people are interested in it. But the question that I almost always reply with when people ask me about selling their prints is, who are you selling your stuff to? Do you know your market? And above anything, that's the key. If you don't know your market, how can you hope to successfully sell to it? Even if you have an idea of your market, how much are they willing to pay you for your work? Are they willing to pay lots of money for it? Big prints. Where I do sell prints, they tend to be much larger than anything you could produce on this printer here. So I sell commercially prints. I sell prints at maybe 6 foot by 4 foot. Now those are huge prints. They go into commercial and I charge a lot of money for them. Now that means there's not a big market, unfortunately, but you know, it's not a huge market for such prints. But that's a particular market I understand and that I take part in. But if you don't know where your prints are going to go, other than I'm going to sell them on Etsy or something like that, do you know who actually is interested? Who else buys cards like the ones you want to make, or prints, or any form of product that's making use of your photography? If you don't know how much they're going to pay, it makes it almost impossible to set the level where you're pitching your business at. And the question is, quite often, can you find customers willing to pay enough? Now, I'll cover a bit more about what enough means in a moment, but if you can't find customers willing to pay enough, then you've got problems. You either need more sales, repeat sales. Now, I've looked at this in terms of photography marketing, how you make a profitable photography business. Maybe you need to consider putting your prices up. That's not always a problem. Generally, if you're trying to compete on price, you're going to be in a tricky market. And unless you have a product that you know there is a niche for, then you're going to have difficulties with it. Even if the platform that you're trying to sell on sounds cheap, offers you loads of help in setting up a shop front and all things like that, remember that the platforms, Etsy, make their money from the people who sell. Etsy don't really care how much you sell. Well, obviously it's better for them the more successful you are, but their real money comes from hosting the platform, providing you with that service. And it always comes down to that. Just because you found somewhere to sell your product, your pictures, whatever, doesn't mean that there's going to be people there who actually want to sell. So one of the reasons I often advise against setting up your own website, or perhaps using common sales routes, such as websites which are produced to sell your art for you. They make the money from subscriptions. SmugMug's one of them. Very few people actually make any money. Most of SmugMug's money is made from people who don't sell much at all, if anything. They just pay up their subscriptions and they get the hosting service for it. So always look at the platform you're looking to to use for this. Now, once again, I've covered aspects of this elsewhere in the videos. So if this is something of importance to you, have a look through some of the ones I've produced. Back to that basic question about selling. Do you know your costs? Now, it's easy to say, well, I know how much I'm paying for these cards. If these cards are too expensive, then think carefully about your costs, because actually the materials should be a relatively minor part of your costs. Are you actually making a profit, or is this just a hobby? I know a lot of people say they want to sell stuff, but when it comes down to it, they don't really want to do too much. They just want the kudos about being able to say, I sold one of my pictures. Well, nothing wrong with that, but that's not a business. That's a hobby that makes you a bit of money. So are you serious about it? And one of the other things is that if your business works and you find subjects that sell, how much time and effort are you putting into it? Because at any level of success for a business selling something like this, larger prints, cards, whatever, at a certain point you're a fulfillment business. And all of your effort goes into packaging, addressing things, managing the nitty-gritty of sales. And very few people properly understand the cost of sales in their time, in actual costs, in packaging materials, in shipping, in having to go to the post office or wherever you send off your stuff. So this at low levels thing, look at your costs. It's very easy to ignore costs at that stage of a business when you've made a few sales. But if you actually seriously want to make a business, all of those costs need to be looked at. So those are the basics. I'll finish off with one other thing to consider. I mentioned competing on price is a very bad thing. It's a race to the bottom. You need products which you can sell at a premium. Because if you're trying to sell very thin margins, there are people far better at it than you. They run card companies and the like. Their costs are relatively small. You can't hope to match them. Now, you could try going for the very high end. And I took a choice in only selling prints that are, for want of a better term, fine art prints and large prints, because I charge a fair bit for them. Now that means I don't have a big market for it. It's not a key part of our business. But that was a deliberate choice because I didn't want to sit in the middle. And the key problem for a lot of people in crafts, and I know this in jewellery, other aspects of craft making, is the problem of sitting in the mid-market. If you're in the mid-market, you're not probably being rewarded properly for the amount of effort you produce and you put into making your products, and there are price pressures. People look at your stuff and think, well, I can get that cheaper. Look at some of the jewellery that's advertised on television this time of year. It's tat. It is cheap garbage, but people like it. It has a brand or something, people might be attracted to that. It is made for next to nothing and it's sold at a hefty markup and it makes a nice business. You're competing with that in jewellery. The equivalent in photography or stuff, people doing cheap cards. If you can't find a market at the high level, as I say, you're stuck in the middle, and at that level, that's very much discretionary spending by people, and the slightest economic headwinds, pandemic problems, job problems, inflation, energy costs, all of these things affect your customers, and they're likely to go, no, I won't. They'll either buy something cheap or they'll save up their money and buy something expensive. So there you have it. It's not an easy thing. And I say it's the most common question I get asked about the business side of things is, I would like to print my work and sell it. Go for it if you can, but go for it with your eyes open. Anyway, I hope that's of some use and some interest. Do check out the other videos. Subscribe to the channel as well. I appreciate that. I cover printing, photography, and I do cover the business side of things as well. So thank you very much.